Chapter openings and closings. You might think that after you've written your drafts, you might be finished. Oh, what a great feeling that is. However, you might want to check on a few more things where you can be objective and before you hand it off to an editor. And you are handing it off to an editor, I hope. I'm talking about how you open books and how you open and close your chapters. Do they make the reader want to continue? That's the goal. Is your reader going to lose sleep staying up all night with your book, turning pages? That's their gamble and your goal. Hello and welcome back to my writing journey. I'm Ellen Byerrum, a mystery writer and playwright, as well as an author of children's books and short stories. I am also a former reporter who worked in Washington, D.C., that beautiful, delightful, cultural, and safe capital city, unfortunately invaded by the orange spirochete and his demonic minions. This is the chapter we're in. Today, I am thinking about chapters. As a reporter, I always think of the beginning of the book, Chapter 1. And it is my lead, my opening, my beginning. The opening is the first and best opportunity to catch the attention of the reader. Remember, I do write murder mysteries and I want to share the lead, the opening of my new book, my next book, that I hope will be out by the end of this year. People who aren't interested can peek at the opening and decide to keep it or skip it. That's the power of a strong opening. This is my next book, These Crooked Things. I'd seen dead things before, but I'd never seen anything as dead as Duncan Balmain, stretched out on the expensive Persian carpet in his lavish Upper East Side apartment. Once the antic party boy, known for his irresponsible pranks and handsome face, Duncan was a lifeless shell in a tuxedo and white shirt. His perpetual tan fading to ashes, he lay on his back, jacket open, revealing a bullet hole in his chest, his hands up, eyes half closed. There was minimal blood on the front of his shirt, but much more had seeped through his back onto the expensive rug. Although his position suggested he had been surprised, there was no expression on his face. Whatever he had been thinking, he took to his grave. At this point in my manuscript, I'm also thinking about chapter openings and endings, which are another challenge and opportunity. At the end of a chapter, you want the reader to want to jump to the next chapter as quickly as possible. However, the story should flow intelligently from chapter to chapter. It's a fine line to create an exciting book, but you want to avoid nothing but jump scares at the end of a chapter. Some thriller writers do this with expertise, and the readers have to know what happens next. But other less skilled authors employ continuous scares as a trick, and they never satisfy your curiosity until it becomes tiring. And I also want to say something my editor told me. Don't start every chapter with the same word or the same letter. Apparently, I have sinned against this in my earlier books. Too many chapters start with Lacey did this, Lacey did that. You might have I did this, I did that. So another thing to avoid. Also, don't cheat the reader. For instance, the writer might put a woman in jeopardy, and it's always a woman, or have her abducted, and then never explain what happened to her. The writer is merely creating collateral damage along the way. I'd avoid chapter endings that become predictable. Somebody always comes through the door with a gun. Too much of that, and it becomes ludicrous or humorous. Avoid chapters where you expect a resolution, but you don't get it, and you never get it. Here are some questions to ask yourself as you're looking at your chapter openings and begin and closings. Does the chapter flow? Does it surprise? Does it compel you to go forward and compel the reader to read on? New chapters can serve to answer small questions that are posed in the preceding pages. Who are these people? Where are they going? What just happened? Play fair. I remember reading a bunch of mysteries in the early 90s when it was always the least obvious person who turned out to be the killer. A character that may have appeared once in early chapters, in a few lines, and then, surprise, it's the killer. Well, that is not satisfying. It required the most tortured explanations. I felt a bit abused by that. There's so many ones did that. Now, the books I read seem a bit more logical, and I wonder if those early writers weren't all reading the last How to Write a Mystery Book novel, or How to Write a Mystery Novel book. Of course, actions can be surprising and unexpected, but they should ultimately make sense. To check your beginnings and endings, it's easy to use your navigation panel, if you use Word, to jump from chapter to chapter. Simply see if you get a sense of the story's rising and falling action by reading the first and last lines of each chapter. Who knows, you might find something is needed, something is great, or think a bit of revision is necessary, or find deeper meaning that you can tweak in a few lines. So chapters are what I'm thinking about today, and I'm going to close now, wishing you a great opening and satisfying endings. And now I'm getting back to my book. So I will see you next time. Bye.